Consider this. If you were born a so-called normal person, you probably never thought about what it truly means to live with a disability, how challenging it can be without the love, the support, the understanding of others. Now think about how heartbreaking it can be when those persons are mocked and even ignored. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Theodore Henry, and I am here to remind you that people living with disabilities are just as normal as everyone else and just as deserving of love and support. Whatever their debility, we want them to know that, especially the young ones. Hence today's lineup. Stay tuned to learn how we can treat those with disabilities to make them feel loved and included. More after the news.
Do you know what a disability is? A permanent loss of function in any part of your body is called a disability. Some people are born that way. Others get a disability because of an illness or an accident. This doesn't have to prevent you from living a full life. The Disabilities Act will protect your right to work, raise families, or do business like anyone else. Visit jcpdja.com. A message from the JCPD, an agency of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, May 30, 2023. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the government is seeking to expand its partnership with the church to build more schools in Jamaica. Mr. Holness says the aim is to enforce values-based education in the society after recognizing a transition in the country's foundational values.
I believe that the church can play and is playing a very important role in fortifying the society and in ensuring that there isn't a total collapse of the moral base of the society. So today, I want to use this opportunity to commend the church in as much as I'm asking for the church to see if more can be done to protect and support our Jamaican civilization.
Mr. Holness was speaking at the 2023 Pentecost Assembly hosted by the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Kingston at the National Arena on Sunday. According to the Prime Minister, the country's education system is not as bad as some would portray, adding that there are schools that continue to produce world-leading talent.
Even as society becomes modernized and take on agnostic views, being grounded in a faith-based educational outlook is still powerful and valuable in today's world. To be morally anchored is still valuable in today's world.
Jamaica and United States-based firm Georgia Aquarium have signed an agreement to explore opportunities in the blue economy. The Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, was signed by Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Senator Aubin Hill, during a two-day trade visit to Atlanta last week. Under the MOU, commercial cooperation will facilitate the purchase of ornamental fish for both Jamaica and the United States. In addition, Georgia Aquarium will work with the government of Jamaica to assist in skills and capacity training and development. This is to support aquatic sustainability, including animal care and life support systems. Both parties will also work towards the protection of important marine areas through the establishment of fish sanctuaries in Jamaica. Also, Georgia Aquarium will work with the government of Jamaica to conduct research and education on sharks towards the possible establishment of a shark sanctuary on the island. An exchange program is also being looked at to facilitate the exchange of students and early career professionals. This will widen exposure to relevant training programs and environments in the USA and Jamaica. And finally, both parties will work towards the establishment of a Port Royal exhibition at the Georgia Aquarium, which will highlight Port Royal and the marine protected areas. Jamaica's Tourism Workers Pension Scheme is set to become a model for other Caribbean countries. Portfolio Minister Edmund Bartlett says the adoption of the pension scheme was part of discussions with regional leaders at the recent 41st Caribbean Travel Marketplace held in Barbados. He says while this will require significant capital startup for the more than 1 million workers in the sector across the region, the long-term benefits are worthwhile.
And if that pension plan is taken across the region in the way that Jamaica has it, the potential to create a level of domestic savings, the size of which the region would never have seen, and would provide now a pool of funds that are low-cost funds owned by the people of the Caribbean for investment in the Caribbean so that the monies that return from that stays in the Caribbean for the building of the wealth of the Caribbean.
The tourism minister was delivering the keynote address at the recent Hall of Fame induction dinner of the 34th Sales Congress of the Caribbean Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. Minister Bartlett is calling for the insurance sector to develop travel insurance for tourists and comprehensive health plans for tourism workers.
That's my second challenge to you, to craft an instrument that will enable a health security insurance arrangement for the workers of the tourism industry in the Caribbean.
Citizens are again being encouraged to utilize appropriate conflict resolution measures. The appeal is being made by Minister of Justice Delroy Chuck as he emphasizes that resorting to violence only escalates situations.
There's no reason for us to be using rage, abuses, threats, violence, and sometimes fatal violence to solve our problems. Far too many Jamaicans feel that unless they deliver the last lick, that there's no justice. So they use violence. They employ gunmen. They employ violence producers to resolve conflicts.
The minister was addressing a Legal Aid Council Justice Fair in St. Anne's Bay on Friday. He points out that using violence as a solution also causes an unfortunate cycle of conflict, which often affects families.
It cannot be the way to solve your problem. Indeed, trying to use violence to solve problems create more problems than you actually intend and want to resolve. Because an act of violence oftentimes attracts retaliation. And there's a cycle of violence when it is used. So before any Jamaican believe that they can solve their problem using violence, bear in mind you're attracting more violence to you, your families, and loved ones.
He's also encouraging persons to utilize the ministry's various services, such as restorative justice and child diversion. And finally, the Office of Utilities Regulation, OUR, has released the first 10,000 batch of new 658 area code numbers to local telecommunications companies. Acting Director of Consumer and Public Affairs at the OUR, Elizabeth Bennett Marsh, says telecoms providers will begin distribution of the new area code once all numbers under the 876 code are exhausted.
So the OER is reminding everyone, including business operators and advertisers, to ensure that the 10-digit format is being used in their publishing, their display of all their local and all their local mobile and landline numbers using the correct area code. With the 658 numbers to be distributed shortly, it means that their 7-digit number will exist under the 658 number, and the only distinction will be the area code. So it's very important for them to start doing so.
Mrs. Bennett Marsh says it is also important for persons to start including the 876 area code when saving numbers to the contact list in their phones. The OUR says the new area code 658 has been in place since 2018. Data from the agency at that time indicated that the new area code would provide more than 7 million additional numbers for the next decade. Meanwhile, the 876 area code, which has been in existence since 1996, was expected to provide sufficient numbering capacity for the next 20 years of demand growth. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
It's safe to say that we have all heard the phrase, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt." I also think it's safe to say we all know that it's not true. Granted, if this phrase helps you out when hurtful words are thrown at you, then good. But at the core, words truly hurt. You know it, and so do I. Let's remember that, especially when dealing with those living with disabilities.
Words can hurt, especially for those among us with a disability, each with their own condition, which may make them stand out, but should in no way have them left out. Hurtful language, intentional or not, can make people feel excluded and be a barrier to inclusion, equality, and equity. A disability is a physical or mental condition that limits a person's movements, senses, or activities. A disability is not a human being or group of people. With that understanding, it is never respectful to say a disabled person or the disabled. In addition, do not use the term impaired. These words do not reflect the individuality, equality, or dignity of people with disabilities.
Persons who use wheelchairs, just that, you use a wheelchair. The wheelchair happens to be your legs, and that is fine. The shoes help me to move around, and my slippers and so on, and the wheelchair helps somebody else to move around.
The word itself, disability, is acceptable as it identifies the condition of a group of people. But when referring to a person one-on-one, it is best to use his or her name. If you don't know the individual's name, the person first terminology is what should be used, because the person is more important than his or her disability.
So it's not the epileptic, it is a person with epilepsy, or the person with autism, the child with autism, and so on and so forth.
When you interact with persons with disabilities, being respectful in your language is not the politically correct thing to do, it's simply the correct thing to do.
People with disabilities or the person with a disability. Persons who use a wheelchair. Wheelchair user. Intellectual disability or intellectually disabled. Person with a mental health disability. Someone living with a specific disability or illness.
In addition, when talking about places with accommodations for people with disabilities, use the term accessible. Do not use disabled or handicapped. For example, it is proper to say accessible parking space or an accessible pathway. And consider this. If you refer to someone without a disability as normal, what does that make the person with a disability? Over time, the use of language and words describing persons with disabilities have changed. As we all seek acceptance and respect, we should do our best to keep updated on the terminologies that do not dehumanize each other. If in doubt, ask. That man or woman with a disability will be happy to tell you what he or she is comfortable with being called. This fosters respect, tolerance, and prevents unnecessary embarrassment. When speaking with or of a particular group of persons with a disability, choose your words wisely.
A A sure way to make someone feel included is by communicating with them. Those of us who are neither hearing nor speech impaired may feel that we don't need to learn sign language. But think how wonderful it could be to open the channels of communication with those who have no other ways of sharing their thoughts. The children at the Danny Williams School for the Deaf want to help with this. Come, let's learn some basic sign language and try to use it as you go along.
Some things we may say.
No, thank you, goodbye, excuse me.
Yes, please, hello, I'm sorry.
Wanna play? What's up? Stop. What's a Wi-Fi password?
Wait, where's the bathroom? What's your name? Drink. Water. What's the name of your school? Where's the town?
Taxi, bus park, shop.
How to get a deaf person's attention. Don't shout at me. Don't throw anything at me. That's dangerous. You can walk beside me and touch me on my shoulder lightly, or you can wave at me. If I'm in a room, you can flicker the lights.
Maintain eye contact. Ensure you're looking directly at the person you're speaking with. Try not to let your eyes wander. Also, it's best to communicate in a room that has good lighting. If it's too dark, communication will be difficult.
Please, make sure you don't have anything in your hands when you're talking to me.
If you cannot sign, you can write, draw, show a picture, or text.
Another way you can communicate with me is by using gestures. You can use your body and your hands to speak. For example, if you don't know the sign for bus, you could use this sign. If you don't know the sign for stop, you could use this gesture.
All children deserve positive parenting. Why not pamper us? Be patient with us. Make time to teach us and, of course, play with us. Celebrate milestones with us and don't forget to be our #1 supporter. Do all these things and practice positive parenting today.
Child Month is coming to a close, but looking out for our children is not for one special month, but an all the time kind of thing. Those living with disability are no exception.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world better.
Safeguarding children with disabilities is very important. More so, although all children are vulnerable, but children with disabilities tend to be a little bit more vulnerable because there are sometimes some of them cannot take care of themselves. And so when we think of safeguarding children with disabilities, we have to think of the different disability groups because there are some who can manage more than others. For persons who are deaf, children who are deaf, you have to ensure that they get the information about being safe, whether safe on the roads or safe from strangers or safe from persons who would harm them. So giving them the information in a language that they can understand. And for us in Jamaica, it's through the Jamaican Sign Language. For persons with intellectual disabilities, it is taking care to explain over and over again in simple language the different types of dangers that they might face. It is teaching them how to be safe on the roads, how to be safe at home, at school, wherever they are. And for these children, they will need sometimes practical examples of what to do. And so for them it is not just telling, but it is also showing. It is very, very important for the child who is blind that they can listen and they can understand readily, but they cannot see, and so they need to be introduced, to the physical feel of things. To know, so that they can be aware of their surroundings. They need to be taught to be more aware of their surroundings, because sometimes it is not about what you can see or feel, but it is just, having that sixth sense. The Child Development Agency covers all children. However, there is a Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, the Combined Disabilities Association, the Jamaica Association for the Deaf, the Jamaican Association on Intellectual Disabilities, the Jamaica Autism Support Association that is there, to help parents and caregivers. It is for the general public to look out for persons with disabilities. Look out for them in the bus stations, at the bus center, for areas, parishes that have bus centers. Do not abuse them. Do not shove them aside. Do not, when you're entering the bus and everybody is pushing and shoving, look out for them to ensure that they get on the bus so that they too can get home, if that is their means of transportation. Persons really have to look out. Don't take away their lunch money. Don't spit on them. You know, don't disregard them. They're another human being seeking an education, seeking to go about their business like any other legitimate child. And so they should be allowed to grow up. They should be allowed to become all that they can be, so that later on we do not have to be seeing them begging on the streets, or, you know, they're cast aside and society has to take care of them, because it will cost us more.
Madam, be wise. Open your eyes. Recognize. Spot them. Stop them. Human trafficking, you putting it to an end. Spot them. Alright. Stop them. Human trafficking, you putting it to an end. We are human at a set. Only cars and bus must be in a traffic. Sex not for children, just know the logic. Why you want put we in a something so tragic? Ring the alarm. 811 119 is a man. Madam, you better panic, cause referee, what? You not see that? See what? Blow the whistle, yeah. Red card, you forget. It's illegal to pull the youth from school. It's illegal to pull the youth from school. Forcing them to labor, to walk your dirty paper. The nation future down the drain. Madam, you are a pain. Nation future down the drain. Madam, you are a pain. Nation future down the drain. Madam, you are a pain. Causing a strain, but it won't remain. Me say me see you. Me see you, me someone. Me say me see you. See me. Me see you. Madam, be wise. Open your eyes. Recognize. Spot them. Stop them. Human trafficking, putting it to an end.
To sum up today's show, treat others how you would like to be treated. It's the golden rule, after all. We have come to the end of another magazine program, and should you want a recap of today's show or any other, please visit our website at jis.gov.jm. Until next time, I'm Theodore Henry. Please take care of our children.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.